Hello folks, back again, this time with a more philosophical video. I like the responses I get to these things. Sometimes the instruments I talk about are new to people, but when I get into the conceptual, often it sparks a little bit more debate. I meet a lot of really good people working on guitars. Some fantastic people, some open people, some people whose opinions are forever in flux because they're willing to take on board new information. And that's the type of person I try to be. But I also meet some of the most closed-minded, opinionated people you would ever wish to meet. And a lot of them are experienced old-timer guitarist types who are operating under old paradigms and 20, 30-year-old industry rules, if you like. And I recently engaged with one who, outside of his very small allowance for guitar brands, liked to call everything a P.O.S, or as we know in the vernacular, a piece of shit. So something like this, which he's never heard of. It's not a Guild, it's not a Martin, it's not a Taylor. Already is relegated to Chinese piece of shit in his mind. And nothing can change that, nothing at all. Now, I would never try to take something like this and equate it with his Taylor 114, or is it 110, sorry. Which is they're selling those now for what, $750, $900? I mean, that's almost $1,000 acoustic guitar. This thing here is selling for $120. So false equivalencies abound with these people. Often they come and sit and play through all your guitars, and they want it to compete with, you know, some custom or handmade guitar that they've got in their collection or had in their collection, and so you're putting a demand on a guitar that you're looking to buy for $100, $150 to play like your $1,000 or $2,000 pound guitar at home, or that you had in the past and stupidly let go of. You can't do that. It's not intellectually fair, for one thing. I find a lot of false equivalency dialogues going on a lot in other parts of culture. The idea that A and B are just as bad as each other or just as good as each other, it sort of takes away the effort of choice or of determining you know, the true factors of you know, a deliberation or a choice between two things. The parties are just as bad, the candidates are just as bad, those guitars are all shit, they're not Martins so they can't be good, or I've not heard of the brand so therefore it can't be any good, or I've never eaten that food so it's probably crap. You know, sort of that the fallacy, no middle ground fallacy, that people often gravitate towards extremes. You know, something's either great or it's crap, and there's nothing in the middle. Well, this is in the middle. It's not a Walmart guitar. It has a real rosewood board. The parts are good. It's bound all the way around. It's not basswood. It's got you know, spruce top, mahogany back sides, although it's lacquered. The keys aren't branded, but they're reasonable. It's staying in tune. Yeah, the saddle is not bone, but it's plastic, and you can change that out. You can make a serviceable guitar out of this. Will it be a gigging guitar? Probably not. Will it be a good guitar for you to practice on at home or in the office? Yeah, why not? It's certainly not a piece of shit. And I really object to people sort of relegating anything they don't know about or don't have experience with, or goes against the sort of popular ideals that are passed around as having no value. If you haven't heard of it, if you don't know about it, doesn't mean it's bad. If it doesn't conform to your model of these three brands are great and everything else is terrible, that's really faulty thinking on your part rather than what you're being presented with. I know I've kind of done this video before, but I'm coming at it from a slightly different perspective. You know, I'm interested in logical fallacies. I know that they're easily adopted in our society, and I see them a lot, particularly with people that claim to have, claim to be experts. A lot of times their expertise, a lot of times it's well-founded, and they know more than I do about guitars. Other times I feel like they have a shut door policy, whereas they've entered a sort of limited room, learned everything they could within that small space, and then shut the door behind them. And it makes them sort of, as Shakespeare would have it, a king of a nutshell. And I find that a lot, particularly with old-timey type guitar guys. And usually guys. It usually is gender. I mean, when I have female customers, I don't tend to get that one-upmanship, that competition. I know more than you, and that can't be good because I don't know about it. So what constitutes a P.O.S., a piece of shit? Well, certainly nothing I have in this room. They do exist. I've recently tried to work on a guitar that I could not make a good guitar. It had unknown hardwood that was too soft, that was bowing. The frets were really some kind of alloy, poor alloy, too soft, pitted, dented. The guitar action was horrible. It needed a neck reset. It wasn't worth, the guitar really wasn't worth $20. It was that bad. I tried to make it serviceable, but I got to the point where I realized that even with my forgiving nature, where I try to restore everything I come across, there are some things that aren't worth restoring, and you have to sort of accept that if you're going to be a luthier or a guitar tech. And you guys out there that do this kind of work know what I'm talking about. There is a tier of instruments that's just below acceptable. I find it a lot in the violin world, and I talked about that recently in a video, and I find it in the ukulele world, and I find it in the guitar world. And those are the guitars you make lamps out of, or you make art projects out of, or you hang on your wall. Not something like this. This is perfectly fine student grade instrument. It can be made to play, and it can be made for someone to learn on and learn well if it's set up well. So this is a conversation I try to have with people who jump straight to the that's a piece of shit labeling, whether in email or in person. But sometimes those people just can't be told, so I thought I'd make a video about it and just send them the link to the video if it comes up again. There are lots of things in this world that are middle ground, are somewhere in the middle between great and fair. And there's a whole series of markets of musical instruments that cross those boundaries. I mean, you have the $100 and something guitar market, you have the $200 guitar market, you have the $300 guitar market. Make it pounds if you want to apply this to the UK or whatever currency you're in. There's a 500, there's a 1,000, there's a 2,000, there's a 5,000 market. What constitutes good or great is often subjective. I mean, the other day I was wrangling with a violin customer. I made a video about that too, and I told them, you want a great violin? There's one going at Christie's auction for 68 million, 16th century Italian Cremonese violin. That's a great violin, and that's not even the top of that tier. So whatever in your mind constitutes perfection or greatness, there's always somebody doing better work, there's always somebody doing worse work, and whatever constitutes the dregs of the industry, there's always lower. Although I've seen some guitars that I can't imagine there'd be anything worse. But there probably is out there, and there are people trying to sell them, and you see a slew of them on our favorite auction sites. But anyway, don't just resort to calling something a piece of shit if you don't know about it, or even if it doesn't play well when you pick it up. Learn how to do some setup. Give the instrument a chance. Work with it. Realize that your surroundings, your atmosphere, your locale, all have an impact upon a musical instrument that's set up on physical principles. I mean, you've got hundreds of pounds of pressure on a wood top with wire strings. Anything can throw that out of whack. So yes, some things are crap, and you'll know fairly soon that they're crap, but other things can be worked with, can be improved, can be upgraded, parts can be added. This applies to all realms of musical instruments, so I'm just throwing that out there. I hope it's of some interest, and give me some feedback if you have differing opinions. See you next time.